Hi guys, I'm here and I'm going to start for you your roasted parsnips and sweet potatoes with caper vinaigrette, the first course for your second parcel. So what I'll start with is just some basic knife cuts. What we have here is a parsnip, I have a couple of them. Parsnips look very similar to carrots. They're just a lighter color, whiter carrot, a little bit creamier consistency. Your first step is definitely going to be to peel your parsnip completely. They're a little bit more fibrous than a carrot, so you have to apply a little bit more force when you're getting those peels off of them, and definitely really concentrate at the ends to get all those peels. Okay. Next, I'm going to trim the ends. Now what we're looking for is pieces of parsnip that are about 2 inches in length. So because both of these parsnips are slightly different sizes, I'm going to cut this first one into 3 pieces, and this one I'll cut in half. And then I'm going to kind of put them together in groups because they're similar in sizes. With this large wedge, I'll take him, I'll cut him in half once, and then I'm going to cut those half into 3. Same with the other half. Because this is slightly more narrow, cut that in half, and then the half in half. Similar in size. With this one, I think I'm going to have to go in 3 again. Just slightly wider. And then with these ends, which are much more narrow, all I need to do is cut them in half. Maybe this guy a little wider. Okay. Next, I have my recipe calls for 2 onions. You'll see onions come in different shapes, different sizes, and so if your recipe calls for 1 onion and you have an onion that's rather large, maybe you choose to use half. And if you have 2 onions, and with this case, our recipe calls for 2 onions. We have 1 large one. Let's just use the whole thing. 1 large onion will be fine. Rather than leaving this root intact, because I'm not doing a dice, I'm just going to clip both of the ends off. Cutting my onion in half, taking the peels off completely. Making sure my cutting board is clean of peels. And then I'm just going to cut this into wedges, so like 4 quarters. Okay, next I'm going to add some garlic. Now I'm going to cut this garlic clove, this whole head of garlic actually, in half, which can be a little tricky sometimes. I just think it's just really important to make sure you kind of get your knife in first before you really start to apply pressure, and then you can just kind of knock it right down. I am going to have a bunch of garlic left over that I'm going to save and be able to use. And probably knock just a few cloves off. Smash them out of their skins just to kind of evenly disperse throughout. And then I'm actually going to just leave that whole thing right in there. It's going to season it up good. Next, I'm going to go get my rosemary and thyme. Few sprigs of thyme. I actually have a little fresh rosemary that I'm going to cut if you want to just take a look right inside that bowl. Yep. A few sprigs of rosemary. with a good, generous drizzle of olive oil. Generous pinch of salt. Generous pinch of pepper. Maybe a little extra salt. And then I could use my hands. But I like doing that toss a little bit more. Had a little bit of rosemary jump out. That's okay. I'm just going to add more that didn't fall out. Okay. Now that it's thoroughly mixed, I'm going to turn it out into my roasting pan. You can really choose any type of a vessel for a roasting pan. I have a couple different types of pans that I'm trying out right now. Even a baking sheet would work just fine. A little bit of rosemary. Looks like we have kind of a nice even distribution of ingredients, which is great. I don't have to move things around too much. Want to try and make sure that all the ingredients are kind of evenly balanced throughout your baking sheet. And then I think it's ready to pop into a 375-degree oven. This is going to bake for about 20 minutes in the oven. And while it bakes, I'm going to continue on with just a couple more knife cuts. I'm going to prepare the potatoes, which we will eventually add to that roasting pan. And just show you the knife cut on the grape tomato as well. So the vinaigrette that goes on top of these roasted vegetables is a caper grape tomato vinaigrette. I love recipes that showcase a couple different types of flavors, and this is a really interesting recipe in that you have some really deeply roasted root vegetables that get real caramelized, and then we add some fresh ingredients to brighten it up. So with a grape tomato, the recipe calls for you to cut it in half. You want to make sure that you cut this vertically in half and not horizontally in half. You want to make sure that your grape tomato stays nice and long. I did cut a bunch already over there, so I'll have these set aside. And the other thing that I wanted to show you is something with the garnish. So I have a toasted sesame seeds here, and I wanted to show you how exactly you could toast a sesame seed. Let's take a break.